Testes, testes, 1, 2.
Hey legends, this is I Am Manifestation. I'm your conscious manifestation coach, Cerise, and I help get out of your own way so you can manifest your version of an awesome fucking life. In today's video, some of you asked me to tell you my success story in terms of manifesting my apartment. So I'm going to go through that with you today. I do want to preface by saying I did not understand conscious manifestation or the law of assumption or anything like that when I manifested this apartment. But looking back, I can see how I did it because, as we know, we're always manifesting, not just when we want something. So whatever you're most consistently thinking or whatever you subconsciously believe is what you are manifesting 24/7. So really, we know with the law of assumption that it comes down to thoughts, right? The thing with my apartment that I have, and I've been in for about 7 years now, and honestly did not expect that I could have all the things that I have in this apartment when I moved in it, like at the stage of my life that I was in at the time. I had in mind like a whole list of things that I wanted in an apartment or in a home, really, like in a home in general. I was thinking of like, when I'm with a partner and I'm ready to start a family and all those things at that time, 7 years ago, I had all these things in mind. But like I said, I just wasn't aware that I could have all those things in an apartment on my own at the time. So when I sort of thought of what my dream apartment was, firstly, I was living close-ish to where I currently am, but in a more like not in as convenient of a place. And I knew that I wanted to ideally have a place that was more convenient to things because I don't drive. For those who don't know, I'm going to be 37 this month and I still don't know how to drive. Not just don't have a license, I don't know how. Anyway, I don't need to because I live conveniently, and that's, for me personally, I don't know if other people would relate, but I'd prefer to pay like more rent to live more conveniently to things than to have a car and commute and everything. And because that's always been kind of the thing that I've chosen as more important to me, convenience, I've never needed to drive, so I've never learned how to. I do think it's an important life skill to have, and I do intend on learning. In fact, soon. But anyway, so I had a list of things in my mind, didn't even write it down. Again, wasn't consciously manifesting these things. I was just like, yeah, I mean, to me, it made sense that I could have those things. I just didn't know that I could have them now. So I wanted the convenience. I wanted everything to be on my doorstep. At the very least, I wanted a supermarket on my doorstep. I'll describe my apartment when I get through my list of things. So convenience, at least a supermarket really close within walking distance. Didn't want to have to get on public transport, even if I lived near public transport. I wanted to live near public transport. I have always envisioned myself in a townhouse, like as opposed to a standalone home. Now that is changing 7 years later. Like I do see myself in a standalone home with a family and things like that. But like 7 years ago, townhouse, it made me feel safer. Like the thought of it made me feel safer, I guess, is why I liked the idea of a townhouse. But yeah, I also, when I was thinking of apartments, didn't want to have anyone in an apartment above me. I didn't want to hear people walking around on my roof constantly. I wanted to live somewhere quiet, even though it was convenient. I did not want to live in a high rise personally. Like there's no shade or anything for people who prefer that or live in a high rise, even if it's not necessarily what they currently want and all that. It's just not what I wanted. These are just things that I had in my mind of like, eventually I'm going to have all these things in a home. I didn't know that I could have it as soon as I did. I think those were the main ones. If any more pop into my head as along the video, I'll say. But, oh, and I wanted quiet neighbors as well. So, and that one kind of has come and gone, but like even then, it's been pretty quiet. It's just, I think I'm picky. So when I was in the place before the place that I'm currently in, I had been thinking of all those things in terms of what I wanted in the long term. And I was looking at apartments as one does when they're ready to move. And this apartment that I'm currently in showed up initially. And this was at a time where like it was really like there were people lining up outside homes. And I think it could be still like that. I don't know. I mean, 7 years later, I'm still in the same place. So I don't really know what the rental market's like in terms of going to inspections and things like that. But there were people like lining up outside rentals to find a place to live at this point in time. Like every inspection I went to, there was a line pretty much, except for this one. And you know, people were offering to pay more rent in order to secure a place because it was just so hard to get a rental. So I had 2 weeks, I think, by the time I looked at this. It might have been a month, I can't remember, again, 7 years ago, but I had like a few weeks. I had already given my notice for my apartment, so I had a set amount of time that I needed to find a place. And I saw this place on realestate.com and I didn't like it. The pictures were not great. The pictures, usually with rental pictures, I'm sure a lot of you will be able to relate. Usually the pictures are like blown out to look better than they are. And like the furnishings that are used are like smaller than what you would put, like, you know, like a king single bed made to look like a queen bed when you know you're going to move in with a queen bed, so you're going to end up having less space. And you know, the pictures can be very deceptive. This was the opposite. I mean, it was deceptive in a not great way. The furniture that was in the apartment was really not to my taste. I'm just going to describe it. It may be to your taste, but just sort of imagine if you saw something that was like the opposite and you're trying to to your taste, and you're trying to imagine like how your existing furniture would fit in. There were like these Art Deco purple, very weird couches in the lounge room. And just, that's the thing that sticks out to my, like in my mind the most. I just remember seeing that and being like, no. And yeah, I mean, the pictures were probably how like realistic, probably how a room would look on a photo before it's blown out to look bigger, or depending on, like, I guess it's the lens or type of camera or whatever they use when they make the space look bigger than it actually is. So I didn't go and have a look at this apartment initially. I was just like, it's a no, it's a hard pass. And then 2 weeks later, I think it was, I was still looking. I was running out of time. All the apartments that I had seen looked like in person, looked way better in the photos than they were in person, to a ridiculous extent. So I was just like, no, I'm not settling. I'm not settling for what I don't want. Like, I'm not moving into a place that's worse than the one that I'm in just to have the convenience of blah, 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 or to pay less rent. I think I ended up paying a bit more rent when I moved in here, but for me, it was like, I'm willing to sacrifice a few of the things on my list to pay if it means like I'm saving a decent amount in rent. But I also like didn't want to do that, and I was willing to pay like up to a certain amount. So eventually I saw that this one was still up online. I was like, that's weird. Usually all the rentals go really quickly at the moment. I'm just going to go and have a look, like I'm running out of time, whatever. And the entryway to the building did not look that impressive, but I had a look anyway. I walked in. It is a 1-bedroom townhouse apartment. Okay. I didn't even know 1-bedroom fucking townhouses existed. It's a 1-bedroom townhouse apartment. I have access to the train and the tram, really close. Even though I am very convenient to public transport, I'm enough into the block that I live in that I don't hear the traffic on the road. I have several supermarkets, several eateries, several different types of chemists, doctors. Like, I'm in the busy hub of the suburb that I live in. I have the convenience for everything. Because it's set out like a townhouse, I don't have anyone above me. My neighbors are quiet and considerate. You know, there's the odd thing here and there, but for the most part, it's like the quietest place I've ever lived. Also, I remembered another thing that was on my list. I didn't want my bedroom to be back to back with another person's bedroom. So as you probably know, if you've lived in apartments before, oftentimes apartments are mirror images of each other, because the pipes for the bathrooms and the kitchens and stuff are shared with the other apartments' pipes for their bathroom and kitchen and things like that. So therefore the brooms are also usually mirrored. I did not want to have a bedroom back to back with someone else's bedroom for reasons I'm sure that we can all guess. So because my place is laid out like a townhouse, even so, because I think townhouses are sometimes mirrored as well, mine is not. It goes hallway, bedroom, hallway, bedroom. So there's a buffer between bedrooms, which I fucking love. So I had this list in my mind, and I'm honestly shocked that, well, I mean, I shouldn't be, I guess, because I teach manifestation, but at the time I was shocked that I got the place as well, because I thought this is the kind of place that surely a lot of people would like. Now, I think at the time it was mostly couples moving into these apartments, and I can see how it can be too small of a space for couples. It has never been a problem for me to have two people here, but I can see how it can be a bit cramped depending on, you know, the personality type that you live with and things like that. And, you know, I will, like I've already said, like my mind now is at a point where it's expanding to, I do see myself in a standalone home now, where initially I saw myself in a townhouse even when I was ready to have a family and all those things. So I think it's maybe been a place where a lot of couples have started out and then they've moved into bigger places and wanted to get a place with a spare room and all those things. Yeah, I got the place. I heard back really quickly. I remember I heard back really quickly that I was accepted for it. I've lived here for 7 years. My landlord is such a cool dude. Like, I don't see him all the time or anything, but whenever I've had an issue that's needed to be tended to, he's organized it promptly. He's even come along at the time that things are getting fixed just to make sure that they're being done properly by the tradesmen, for those who don't live in Australia, for the tradies to fix. And he's even brought me coffee when he's like, which I don't drink, but bless him, like he doesn't have to do that. He's brought me coffee when he's shown up to oversee the maintenance that's happening and things like that. So, and also if you haven't seen, I don't know if I can link it, and I don't know what site it would be on. If not, it's a recent video. I'll try to remember to put it in the description. I don't know if you just saw that fly past the camera. But I did a video recently about how I not only manifested a pay rise, which I was manifesting because I got notice that my rent was going up, which is something that was happening Australia-wide at the time, a significant amount. I also, in the same story, talk about how I was able to decrease the amount that my rent was being increased. So it's still increased, but by a lot less. And then I also manifested a pay rise that covered that and led to more money left over at the end of each week than what I had before my rent went up and before I organized. But anyway, go and watch the video. The main points, I guess, to take away from that, because I wasn't consciously manifesting it, but I did manifest it because we're always manifesting, was that I had in my mind, like, these are the things that I ultimately want and I know that I will have them. But I didn't have like any time pressure on having all the things on my list, right? There were the bare minimum things that I was willing to accept, and the maximum amount I was willing to pay to have those things in my mind at the time. And I still don't think there's anything wrong with that, even though I'm further along and I teach manifestation and things like that. But I guess when I look back, it was the knowing that I would have all those things, like it wouldn't be an issue. And I didn't put the pressure on the place that I found next to be that place that covered all those bases. But then I ended up finding a place that covered all those bases that I initially didn't even bother to see was still available 2 weeks later at a time where there were people lining up down the road. I shit you not, like I'm not even exaggerating, people lining up down the road to look at rentals for inspections. So what I do want to elaborate a little further on, because I've just kind of said it, is with unknowing. You don't have to necessarily affirm because I know that like with law of assumption, we talk a lot about, and I still do, I talk a lot about, I think in my earlier videos, I did say all with unknowing, and then I kind of stopped saying that because for the people who were coming across me who were really, really new to all of this, they weren't at a point where that information was helpful to them. It was more helpful to just encourage you all to, you all, I'm saying now because a lot of you will probably be new to this, seeing these videos, but I've been doing TikTok for a while now. It was easier just to train the mind in the present tense, to speak as if you already have the thing that you want in the present tense. But you can absolutely affirm with a knowing that it'll happen in the future at some point. And if you're doing that without putting any pressure on the time frame, because a lot of you are trying to force things or will things into existence by a deadline, when you're not putting that pressure on it, it's going to happen so much faster than you ever expected anyway. Like I did not foresee being able to have all the things that I have been able to have with this apartment until later on in my life, whether it was like age-wise or stage-wise in terms of like the stage of my life that I was in. Like I said, I didn't think a townhouse was going to be a thing for me until I was growing a family sort of thing, starting a family, growing a family. But 7 years ago, I was single. I only had myself to worry about. This apartment is so spacious. Every person that has ever like come to see my apartment is like, your room is huge. You've got like, I have a balcony as well. So that's another thing. Sorry, I should have written a list down before I started recording, but I'm trying to get a video out every week, and this is how I'm going to be able to do that for the time being. I wanted a balcony or like an outside area, which I have. I have an apartment on the side of the building that gets awesome sunlight. Like it's essentially like a single person's dream home. And like I said, I'm sort of ready to start being open to, like, part of me doesn't want to leave here just because it has everything that I want. And that's where that fear can come in. For people, right, they're like, I don't want to move because I fear that I'm not going to be able to have all the conveniences and things that I love about this place in a bigger place, in a place somewhere else. So that's what I'm sort of priming my mind for now. I don't have any plans on moving yet, but like, you know, I had primed my mind for this apartment without realizing. Now I'm consciously priming my mind for the kind of place that I'll want after this apartment. But yeah, so you can manifest with affirm, sorry, with a knowing that something will happen. And for those of you who have a tendency to really try to micromanage and give a lot of detail in your affirmations and hyper control things, it might help to affirm with a knowing. See how that feels. Remember, your feelings are there to tell you how resistant something is. So if you can start off saying something, you can go into more specifics later, but try starting with like with a knowing. I know it'll happen. It doesn't matter when or how. I know it'll happen. Try that first. See if that feels less resistant for you than saying I have all of these things right now, but or by this particular date. And if it feels less resistant, cool. And then over time, you can start moving into saying that it's here now and test how you feel when you do that to see if, like, that will basically tell you how much that you're breaking down the resistance when you change up how you say things. So the broader you say things, the less resistant you will generally feel for most people. Oh, and just a reminder to sign up for the no obligation to buy Solid Self-Concept course waitlist in the description below. Anyone who's on the waitlist will receive an email when the course is released with a 50% off voucher. And only the people on the waitlist will receive that voucher code, 50% off code. So even if you don't think that you'll be interested in it, it's worth just signing up to have the option when it comes out, because by the time, like, self-concept is something that people only do when they're ready to do it. And a lot of you I know will be focusing on like, I don't want to think about me. I just want to think about the thing that I want or the person that I want. And if I'm not thinking about them all the time, I'm not going to get what I want. That's not how it works. I'll do a video on that later. But eventually you're going to realize, fuck, okay, I actually need to do the self-concept shit that everyone's harping on about. these days. There's a reason we're talking about it. It's because, yes, you can manifest the thing that you want without good self-concept, but if your story about yourself and people and the world around you and you in relation to all those things is the same as it was when you couldn't get or hold on to the thing that you wanted, you're not going to be able to hold on to it. You're just going to keep creating a toxic cycle that essentially gets worse and worse, because every time you get burnt by the same thought habits that created the issue in the first place, it snowballs. And that's why you become more triggered over time. That's why your situations become more toxic over time. So sign up to the wait list. At least give yourself the opportunity to have the 50% off when it's released, and you can decide then. It's no obligation to buy. Anyway, I'm going to wrap things up there. You're a fucking legend. Don't you ever forget it. And until next time, have a good one.